You got to have a routine. I would give two, actually. I would say, number one, you got to have a routine. Number two, you have to gamify your real estate business. When I talk about routine, it's you got to have your mindset right as you get through this. Your first 2 to 3 years in the business are going to be tough, right? If you're going to make any sort of business and brand behind this, you're going to get kicked in the teeth a few times. And you need to get your mindset right before you get on the phone and have a conversation with someone.
Welcome back to the Why Do I Suck as a Real Estate Agent podcast. I'm your host, Monte Reyment. My guest today is an award-winning agent out of Rochester, Minnesota. It does about 40 to 60 deals a year. No team, no handoffs, just him and the people he works with. Alex Mayer, co-author of the 2024 Amazon bestseller, Top Producer Secrets. Alex, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
I love it. So I always like to hear the origin story, man. So how'd you get into real estate? And then we'll get into how you built yourself up to 60 deals a year.
Yeah, gosh, that's a longer story than maybe I got the entire time for, but I'll give you the spark
Yeah,
notes.
all good. All
Yeah,
good, man.
so, I actually feel like I was really blessed in the career that I ended up with. I just feel like a lot of what real estate has to offer me as a sense of fulfillment, what we do on an everyday basis, like that really resonates with me and I'm good at it. And, if you're good at something, it's fun to always participate in it. So I was actually recruited into real estate back in 2016. There was one of the top teams here in Rochester, Minnesota. Broker came in through a dealership I was working. I was in auto sales for about 18 months, did really well, and was ultimately recruited into real estate. I had planned on doing that at some point in the future. It was always in the back of my mind. So I didn't expect it to happen as fast as it did. Once they said they wanted me on board, I was licensed inside of 3 weeks, and I think everybody can agree that if you've ever gone through, you have to have gone through the licensing process. You get your real estate license, and then your real education begins.
Yes.
And I think that's one of the real unfortunate things about it is, we are essentially spending, in Minnesota, it's 90 hours coursework. Not one of those hours is dedicated to marketing, negotiations, explaining you the real ins and outs of what actually goes into real estate. And unfortunately, the consumers have a lot of misinformation based off of HGTV about what we do. A lot of agents will post their highlight reels about how successful they are, and you and I probably can name agents in your market that are all over TikTok and Facebook, and you're like, this person does less than 6 deals a year.
Yep.
And it's like the perception is not actually reality in a lot of those situations. Now, I didn't know that when I got licensed, but I was real blessed with where I started as a team. I do believe that agents should have a mentor when they first get into the industry. I will stand by that 100%. You don't know what you don't know. Just 2 weeks ago, I had met at a networking event a newer agent who's been licensed for 4 months, said she hasn't sold a house, hasn't actually signed a client yet. And I was explaining some of the key things that they need to take in consideration when they start getting clients. And one of the things that kind of irked me a little bit in her response was, I understand the real estate side of things. Like, I'll know how to handle those things. And yeah, you laugh. Like any agent who's been doing this long enough knows that I know less every single day. Well, it's not true. Like, experience matters, but like every day I'm humbled in the new things that I'm experiencing and learning. Like, that's a normal part of the process. But I was blessed because I joined a team, and everyone on that team was actually a high producer, and it really helped me learn things really fast. I had a great mentor who explained the process of, what is it like taking on an intake call, leading a prospective buyer or seller through the process, to scheduling an appointment, to going on that appointment and showing them that you know what it is you're talking about, especially as a new and younger agent. And then ultimately, helping them throughout the process of actually buying and selling real estate. So I was really blessed in regards to that, because a lot of that was provided for me at the beginning. They disbanded within about 2 years. That broker made too much money and then bought an RV and now tours the country. And I went independent at that point. 2 years later, started a small team at my last brokerage. I was their top agent all 5 years. And then I joined my most recent brokerage back in 2023. And I dropped from having a small team of 4 agents to actually just working as my own direct representation agent, is what I call it, where, in a lot of teams, they promote themselves as like, we're more available for the clients. We do a lot of business, and there's an industry term called transaction stuffing, where sometimes an agent, like the head agent, will stuff in 12 other agents' transactions into their numbers. And a lot of that stuff kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And if someone is reaching out to me to be their agent, then I want to be the one who's actually talking to them. And if you've ran a team, which it sounds like you have, like you understand it's like herding cats. These are independent salespeople. They're expensive. They have their own opinions about things, and in the end, they'll still end up resenting you, no matter how much business it is you give them. So it ended up being time consuming to run the team and my own clients at the same time. So I eliminated half of it. I'm like, I'm just going to work with my clients directly, and it freed up my time to make me more available for clients. I've been able to focus on the brand quite often. And here in my local Rochester, Minnesota community, I've won Best Real Estate Agent 4 years in a row, so I'm pretty well known, even though I don't do 200 transactions like the top team in the city of Rochester does.
Sure.
I'm just a direct representation agent. So
love it. So you already answered like 2 or 3 of my questions I had for you, just going off the cuff there, which I love it. So let's talk a little bit more about like attraction versus chasing. So you went from, you see those big teams that have the 200, plus transactions, and you hit on transaction stuffing, which is one of the things I want to do or wanted to talk about, but you hit on it already. So most agents spend half their week chasing prospects. Walk me through how you replaced chasing with attraction.
Yeah, so to be fair, I started in the business every morning from 9 o'clock until 11 o'clock in the morning. I will call online leads who had registered on Google and Zillow and things like that. When I went independent, I just did Google. But I was spending 2 hours a day actually, prospecting people. And what I learned really fast is if I take a day off on prospecting or a week off on prospecting, it's going to hurt my paycheck sometime in the next 90 days. I still believe that prospecting and making online phone calls is the number one best way for a brand new agent to get business. I think a lot of agents believe that my friends and family members should work with me just because I was able to take 90 hours of coursework and pass 2 exams, right? Like, unless you can prove to your family members and friends, and you should have the right, I believe, to ask your family members and friends to work with you as an agent, but you have to earn that right. And that means a lot of the times you have to start cutting your teeth on harder leads and having conversations with consumers about how real estate works and working through that process one step at a time. You got to really build. This is a built business, that. Right? Yeah. It's not something that you come out week one and all of a sudden you're the number one agent in the area. It takes time, and there's a lot of hard lessons. But I learned that if I stopped making the phone calls, it was like a hamster wheel, and I would ultimately hurt my paycheck down the road. So I actually invested in a real estate coach. I learned digital marketing. I did a lot with like Facebook and Instagram back in 2019. So this is really pre-COVID, working through online videos, running 2 video ads a week, and making sure that I'm actually in front of the community. One thing that was important to me was making sure that people knew who I was. So I was on a lot of video. And sometimes it was just me walking around with my dogs, it's talking on camera like I am right now about what's going on in real estate and educating buyers and sellers on the process. My core values are education, communication, responsiveness. So I'm big on the education bit. I want people to know what to expect, how to operate, and I want to explain it in an easy to understand way. And that's not always easy, and I think that's one thing that most younger agents will struggle with. And a lot of that comes from having like a feet in the street experience of what's happening on a day-to-day basis. But you can do that more if you have a mentor or you have someone that you're following regularly. This is why I'm very critical. Having a mentor is so important. And then once you get to a point where you are doing good business, you need to not just pay attention to people who are above your level, but at your level and approaching. Pay attention to upcoming agents. I'm always doing that. If there's an agent that's making waves inside of the first year, like I want to know what they're doing. So you have to be on top of making sure you're watching those things. But the attraction-based model started with video. We talked about the top producer secret books. In my city of Rochester, there's radio ads, billboards, buses. They have my dogs that are all over my brand, all over the place. And now people will practically already know who I am. And I don't have to spend that 2 hours every morning chasing clients. If I decide to take a week and a half off, I'm still going to have real hot, fresh, quality, prospective clients reaching out to me. If I were to say the one thing that I think has really changed my business in just the last 6 months, it would be AI citations. Making sure that you're showing up when people are searching for a real estate agent in your specific niche in your market. And if someone's Googling something on ChatGPT or Gemini, that's the most important place to put your energy.
For sure. So let's talk about that AI searches here, because we've touched on it a little bit in this. Yeah, every episode always touches on AI, but they don't really get into the AI citation and how are you being found? How are people being found on AI?
So a lot of my data and information was collected in like November, December of last year. So it might be a little outdated on some. Of course, I'm still like paying attention to it. I like to think I'm at the forefront of it in many ways.
Sure.
But there are still some, like AI is changing so rapidly, so we have to figure those things out. What with AI citations, what I'm talking about is generative engine optimizations, recommending you as a agent for a person's specific interest. So one of the big changes from Google SEO to AI citations, or GEO, generative engine optimization as I call it, is people are putting in more words in their searches. Google's a directory, right? So people on average are putting in 4 to 7 words and they're searching for something, right? And a good portion of those time, the first 2 or 3 recommendations are actually people who are paying for advertising, and then you got 5 or 6 teams which, you know, are kind of all over the place, right? With AI citations, what they are, the average person nowadays is actually speaking to AI, right? Not typing it out. We actually do speak faster than it is that we can type things out. And I know that's difficult for agents who really want to make sure they're very detail oriented, but you just have to learn to have a conversation with these AI platforms. So when people are searching online, the average number of words that people are putting into a prompt is about 80. Okay. So what does that mean for you as someone who's trying to be a marketer today is you actually need to talk more about the keywords, the keyword details that people are talking about. I'm a first-time home buyer who's relocating to Rochester, Minnesota. I'm looking for something that's within 15 miles of the Mayo Clinic, which is where I'm working. And I need someone who can explain things to me in an easy to understand way and help me relocate from California. Right? This is the type of stuff people are entering in the AI. If you can answer 3 or 4 of those questions for your niche ideal clients, it's going to start promoting you to the top 1 and 2. And ironically, so few agents have caught on to this. I found there is still time to get on it. Eventually, everyone's going to figure it out or have some semblance of it, but it's going to be copy-paste. You need to differentiate yourself to market. AI citations is one of the best things I think that a consumer can do, or a realtor can do right now to really bring themselves to the forefront. And you'll find that you'll get clients that are more in alignment with your niche specifically, right? It's important.
Yep, for sure. So, I mean, obviously when an agent needs, you know, to be clicked by AI, somebody's asking, you know, who the best agent in the market is. You want to be that guy showing up 1 and 2 for sure. I've had a few lately. That's actually worked out pretty good for me. Now, switching gears a little bit, you know, somebody listening right now has been an agent for 2 years, still cold calling every morning. You know, what's the one thing that they should stop doing tomorrow?
Ooh, what they should stop doing? You know.
And what do they replace it with?
Okay. Number 1 is always about routine. If you're an agent who's been prospecting consistently for 2 years, you understand routine matters, right? You have to have a plan in place. You know, the one big thing, right? What's the one thing that you can do today such that if you kick that domino over, the rest of the day is going to make sense, right? What I would say they would need to start doing is they would need to start setting aside at least an hour a day to actually work on some sort of video content. And I know everyone talks about video content and has for years, but I mean just set aside 2 days a week for an hour where 1 hour you spend some time, you know, figuring out what it is you want to talk about, and 1 hour you record it. If you're still at the forefront where you can't hire video editors, which you should offload that as quickly as possible, then spend an hour doing that too. But you should be running ads, at least 2 to 3 ads every week. That it's something different. That's you on camera talking about the real estate market, your community, how things actually work, new things that are happening, any sort of event that you can get in front of where people start associating you with real estate. You need to make it where the consumer cannot forget that you're in real estate. Like if someone says that, oh, I forgot you were in real estate. If someone said that to me, it's like, you know, are you living under a rock? Like this is what I do every day, and I spend every moment trying to be everywhere. Maybe not for everybody, right? And, you know, there are problems in real estate, but ultimately making sure people know that you are doing real estate and you understand what's going on. And I would say you have to start making time for that, right? And I'm not saying you need to turn away from phone prospecting. I still kept doing it for another year and a half before I was able, hey, I don't need to do this anymore, and I hand it off to other agents, right? And again, I still believe with new agents, this is beneficial to them to cut their teeth on those things, right?
Let's get the reps in.
Absolutely. And anyone who tells me that they're batting 1,000 on meeting with clients or making offers and they're winning every offer they make, I'm like, that person's a liar. Like, if you're batting 1,000, then you are not at bad enough. Like, there's no way you're going to come out of this unbloodied in some way.
Hey, it's easy to go 1 for 1.
Yeah, try doing that a dozen times. But they would have to start making time for that, and you have to treat it as a long game. It took probably 3-4 months before I started seeing my first client from it. Now I've been doing it for about 7 years now, so it's been a long time and it's consistent for me. And it does get easier. It's like the first time you wrote an offer, right? Took you 2 hours. Second time took you 45 minutes. And now what? 5 minutes?
Yeah, no, I wish, but yeah, still 15, 20 minutes tops. Yeah.
Yeah. The point is it shortens down in the time.
For sure.
Quick, right?
For sure.
And same thing with video. I don't turn away. If something's working, don't turn away from it. I would say. But then slowly start building that portfolio. Eventually, you'll be able to take more money and reinvest it. When I was early in the business, my first 2 years in the business, I committed to 50% of every dollar I earned went back into the business. Yeah. Right? Marketing, education, what have you. I mean, nowadays, I still hover around that 30%, right?
Sure.
To go into business between everything, I believe.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big change in it. So create
100%
clientele. And beyond anything, always the clients are number one, right? Like, you give those people a great experience. They're going to tell their family members and friends. Like, if there's nothing else that you can take away, just make sure that you're taking care of your people.
Yep. Well, and you're a big video guy too. You just brought that up a couple of times. So, I think the numbers are ridiculous. I mean, you're seeing it more now, but less than like 1% of agents actually use video on their listings. Why is post and pray still the default?
Well, I think if we're being honest about the different levels of real estate agent, I would say 87% of agents are at best struggling. And then I would say the 10% above them are doing enough deals to be paying the mortgage and maybe, making a little bit of extra money. I mean, there's many different definitions of success. So I don't want to tear anyone down if their goal is to just do 10 deals a year, right? Like that's a good income if your goal is to do, stay at home and not do much, right? But 87% of agents are not good. Very first rally I went to in southeastern Minnesota, I was green. I was only probably 4 or 5 months in the business at that time. The trainer said, it's not so much that I'm a great real estate agent as it is the rest of you all just suck.
Sounds like my kind of person right there.
Yeah, which is why when I saw the title of your podcast here, I was like, God, that's great, right? One of the very first things a speaker ever said. And I was laughing because I had even figured it out inside of the first 3 to 4 months. Like, most agents are not good at this. You just got to be slightly better than them, right? Be a chapter ahead of the rest of the class, right? And repeat the question for me. I lost my train of thought there.
Yeah, it was more or less like video agents not using video for their listings.
Okay, so even the agents that are using video, the 1% that are, I don't know if a lot of them are using it correctly. And they're not actually spending money behind advertising it, right? Just because I can, record a video on my phone or hire someone to record a video on a property for me and post it on my Facebook or business page for my mom and a few agents at my brokerage doesn't make me a marketer, right? You actually have to, just sold, listed postcard, things like that. Like, there's actually, you need to have expenses behind your marketing. I think that's critical. You don't see someone opening up a coffee shop and not paying for coffee beans, a coffee maker, office space, employees, making sure those things are done. Like, if you are running a business, you actually need to have expenses. So, most of it is because most agents are failing in general. A lot of people are afraid to get on camera. Who likes the sound of their voice?
It's taken a long time. It took a long time. My previous career broke me on that, but even now I still cringe sometimes, a little nasally and all that other stuff. But yeah,
exactly. But I think there's part of the self-conscious thing to it, and people are just afraid to get on video. They're afraid to put themselves out there. They don't like the way they look. Shocker. If you are doing real estate, people will eventually meet you, so they're going to see your face, right? So I think it is definitely something that a lot of people struggle to get over, but the ability to just leverage your time is outrageous. Like, it can take me 2 minutes to record a video. I can run an ad behind that, and I can get 40 hours of video watch time in a week and a half. That's always constantly prospecting for you in the background.
Yeah, it's perpetuity, right? Like, stuff's not coming down unless you take it down. So you don't know who's going to come across, and it all just kind of stacks. Mm-hmm. Yep, I love it. So what was the moment you knew the team model wasn't for you? Like, what was that switch?
Oh, okay. So it was profitable for about 2.5 years, right? So, the way that I ran my team is my agents were on a 50-50 split. I had 3 agents underneath me, and then, I ran my own show. But I was paying for the office space, the marketing, the lead generation. I was spending a lot of time educating these agents. Like I said, I believe in the mentor model, and I liked mentoring. I like teaching. It's one of my favorite things. I think it's why I've gone as far as I have as a realtor. But it's easy when they were listening to me and they were doing the work. And I call it becoming a sophomore agent. It's like when you're a sophomore in high school, you think you got it figured out.
Yep.
Like, I know how this is going to go. And so the first year they listened to me, they were all making really good money because they were doing the reading, showing up, making the calls, doing things like that. And then they got comfortable. And so I think this is I don't think anyone wakes up in the morning like, I don't want to be successful in real estate. I don't think anyone is like, I'm going to wake up and fail, right?
Right.
Everybody wants to be successful. It's just about having the discipline to do the work and doing it when it gets boring. And so first year they would do really well, and then they would start to slack off a little bit, and then it got a little easier on them. And I got to the point where I was like, well, what's the point of me in, covering a good portion of their expenses? And I was making the majority of the money anyways. But I was diverting, 15, 20 hours a week to managing and putting out the fires of these other agents and training them. And I realized that was time consuming. And it took me away from getting other clients. And I got to the point where I was like, what's the purpose of me paying for this opportunity to go to this agent who's going to make 50%? Like, they think I'm making most of the money, but I have expenses on the back end, and they're walking home with a paycheck. And I was like, I could work that client, keep the full thing, and I can just work on the clients I want to work with. So back in 2023, I pivoted and went back to the direct representation model, as I call it, which is you hire me, I'm your agent. I have a fully licensed assistant in the background. I have a Rolodex of the best inspectors, title companies, lenders. Just because I don't have like a team of agents underneath me doesn't mean I don't have a list of different people that I can create a team for my clients that are going to be successful for them. And I think that was ultimately one of the big changes, along with, the branding being, the forefront of it now, where I can work less, I can work with the clients that I want to work with, and we can all have a better experience in the end.
Yeah, 100. So next 3 years, AI is changing how consumers find agents. What does that mean for the average operator over the next 3 years?
For the average real estate agent, it means you got to start building that foundation now. You need to be recognizable online. Now, I know that's something people have said for 2 decades now, but now you need to not only just be recognizable online for the consumer, but for these little AI crawlers that are going out there and gathering information on real estate agents in that area and pulling you to the forefront of it so that you can be an option to get go. And then when people are looking at those 3 to 4 options that these LLMs are presenting to consumers as an option for them, why should someone pick your name out of the lineup versus the other 2 or 3? And you need to make sure that your messaging is consistent across all those platforms. AI is changing the game, and AI citations, I think that part probably gets the least amount of attention as it should in the realm of what AI is doing for us today. Just because I can create a fake little AI ghost of myself and run videos behind it doesn't mean that consumers aren't going to understand that's fake. We can spot fake AI nowadays.
Right.
They want authenticity. They want the ums, the ahs, the weird movements, right? It humanizes us.
Yep. That's one thing about this when they edit it is they'll take the out, like this will be chopped up, that part. So it'll be funny when we listen back. Now, you work a lot with relocation, specifically Mayo Clinic. Obviously Rochester, Mayo Clinic are synonymous, but how does that work for you? I mean, I would assume a lot of agents in your area are trying to be Mayo Clinic relocators. So how are you separating yourself from everybody else? I mean, you have 300 Google 5-star Google reviews and, bunch of four years in a row of top agents. So I'm sure that's a pretty easy separator once you built that. But what are you doing specifically to, target relocation clients?
I mean, I'm gonna skip over the AI citations thing again, just to not keep being redundant. But part of it is always leading with those reviews, and you got to have the language that you're a relocation specialist. The best thing I could give people, like in my market, it's physicians, doctors, nurses. That's one of the key clientele that come here. So for whatever that is for your market, you need to talk to the consumer that is like the ideal client within that realm, right? So when I talk on video, or the way that when I talk to people about who are about to write a review for me, I tell people about your situation, what you went through in that review. Now, I'm a resident who just matched at Mayo Clinic, looking to buy my first home. This is how I found Alex. This is what he did. This is what happened in the process. Tell the story. So I'll ask them to do that in the reviews. In your video content, it's talking to that type of consumer. If you're a Mayo relocation employee, physician, or just someone else relocating to the area, maybe my content might be specific to physicians or nurses, but other people are going to pick up on that too, because they're going to understand that I know the Rochester area and what goes into that. And it's the same thing for any other market out there. There are probably, in most markets, there's 1 to 2 probably big employers or big influxes, right? So just talk to that type of consumer in your videos and your content, so that when those type of people are searching, you start showing up.
For sure. I love it. So, as we close this up, Alex, and it's been awesome having you on here, agents who feel they're sucking at this point, give them one thing that they can do tomorrow that's going to change their game.
You got to have a routine. I would give 2, actually. I would say, number 1, you got to have a routine. Number 2, you have to gamify your real estate business. When I talk about routine, it's you got to have your mindset right as you get through this. Your first 2 to 3 years in the business are going to be tough, right? If you're going to make any sort of business and brand behind this, you're going to get kicked in the teeth a few times, and you need to get your mindset right before you get on the phone and have a conversation with someone. You need to experience that moment when someone just rejects you, starts cussing at you on the phone and hangs up on you. Like, you got to know what that's like, and you just got to embrace the suck. I'm sure you can agree with me on this. Sometimes I look back on my real estate business, and it's those early years that I realized, it was the climb, not holding top of the mountain. It was the beginning, when everyone was like, you were going to fail. Like 87% of agents fail. That's you. And I was there too, I remember what that was like. I know what it's like to, spend money for leads and then only have $500 left in your bank account. I know what that's like, right? Mm-hmm. And you have to experience that. But if there's number 1 thing you got to get right, it's got to get your routine down in the beginning, making sure that you're doing the work that needs to be done, doing the boring stuff. It's not going to be, it might be exciting the first, few times you do it. You might not enjoy it exactly, but what isn't exciting is doing it 4 months later, 18 months later.
Yeah.
It's not fun anymore when you just got to keep doing it. And then the second thing I think would say is gamify your real estate business. You got to celebrate your wins. There's a lot of losses, and there's very few wins in real estate. Even myself, 4 or 5 sales, like you said before, 40, 60 deals in a year. 4 to 5 sales in a month, that doesn't mean that I only celebrate 4 or 5 times, right? Like, I need to celebrate the milestones that I'm going through it. I just had a great conversation with someone. We set an appointment for Friday. That's a win, right? 3 points for Alex, right? I used to have a game. I was like, I want 6 points in a day. If I get a signed client, that's 3 points. If I get an accepted offer, that's 3 points. If I, close a deal, that's 3 points. It'd be 1 point for an hour of prospecting. It'd be 2 points for an open house. I would create these little points I would have, and every day I just got to hit 6. I got to figure out a way to get to my 6 points, right? And, sometimes having 2 closings a day, I was like, I won the day. I can take the day off, right? Now, I wouldn't do that at the beginning, right? Because it hurt your paycheck. But you got to gamify the business, because there's a lot of negativity as well. And the wins are not always available to you. You have to be mindful of any alcohol usage. I say that all the time too. In real estate, I know a lot of real estate agents who suffer from addiction, and you drink to celebrate. You drink when bad things happen. You drink when you're bored, and you need to say no. We're limiting those things.
Yep. I gave it up 3.5 years ago for that reason. It was too much, and I live in Green Bay, so like, our drinking here is at a different level.
I'm not saying people shouldn't drink. I'm just, but it's one of those, you got to be mindful of those things, because, you can really hurt yourself.
I love it. That's great advice. The last part there might be the most important. It was a huge thing for me, and I don't miss workouts as much anymore. I don't have hangovers. My day doesn't start at, 10 a.m. It starts at, 7, so gain all those hours. My energy levels are better. So yeah, and again, I have no problem with anybody drinking. I wasn't an alcoholic. I just chose to give it up, and, for the betterment of my business, and quite honestly, the people around me that I do. I'm a broker. So I have a lot of people that rely on me to, to perform every day.
Yep.
So I love it. Well, Alex, where can people find you? I'm assuming on all the video platforms, right?
Yeah, I'm on all of them. I usually tell people the best way to connect with me is actually, add me on Facebook. I know not everybody has that either, but I'm usually pretty available. If you go to my personal Facebook page, 90% of my posts are actually of my dogs, but people know that I'm in real estate. And I think that makes me personal too. But other than that, go Google top agents in Rochester, Minnesota and see what shows up on ChatGPT and AI overviews.
Yeah, where can they find your book? Tell us a little bit about your book before we wrap this up.
That's on Amazon, and that was a compilation between me and some other top agents across the country through an old mentor of mine. And that got published back in 2024, and it really talks about attraction-based marketing. My section of the book was mostly about how to build a lifestyle by design where you're not working 50, 60 hours every week, but working a happy 15, 25 hours a week and still having a business that's robust and providing.
Love it, man. Love it. Well, link will be in the show notes, guys. Alex, thank you so much for coming on. If you guys like this, give us a like, give us a share with somebody who needs it. New episodes every other week. I'm Monte Reyment. This is Why Do I Suck as a Real Estate Agent podcast. And thanks again, Alex, for coming on. You're awesome, man. And congratulations on all the success.
Thank you.
So that's a wrap here on the Why Do I Suck as a Real Estate Agent podcast. Thank you so much for spending time with me and our guests. The people you hear on the show really aren't guessing. They've been doing the work. They've been doing it for a long time. They're sharing their behaviors, their habits, their successes, their systems that actually lead to real work, real success. So please subscribe and follow so you don't miss the next conversation. Until next time, remember, you don't suck. You're learning. It's the beginning, or maybe you're in a rut, but you don't suck. So make a few changes, stay curious, stay consistent, and please keep coming back.